Hi, Jay.
I
Okay,
just,
so please mute yourself if you're coming in. It would have muted you automatically. I just want to do the introduction so we can start our meeting with Mary Ann. I'm going to go ahead and mute everyone, and then I'm going to unmute Mary Ann. So just a moment, please. Mary Ann, you can unmute yourself, so I'm asking you to unmute. There we go. All right. And you know, it's not that I want to shut you out, it's just really about background sound. There was some background noises going on. So today is December 10th, 2020, and this is the SRT practitioners, what's normally called a clearing session because the teacher that I'm interviewing invites us to explore different things about SRT clearing and building your practice as a practitioner. And of course, sometimes those topics are about setting intention, spiritual healing principles. And tonight we have a fabulous, um, opportunity to speak to Mary Ann Detzler, who I've known for a long time. And she's going to present a topic. But before she does that, I'm going to give you a little bit of an intro. And I'm going to apologize for notification sounds if they end up bothering you on my computer. Hopefully they'll calm down in a moment. Okay, so I just want to give a big welcome to everyone at this SRT practitioners meeting on Zoom. This is organized as a free event to all practitioners, consultants, and teachers that do SRT, SPR, by the Spiritual Response Association and the Board of Directors. They're offering this as a way for us to network and to share ideas and to help give you support and encouragement. So as we're doing that, it will be recorded because as you know, not everyone can meet at a particular time on a particular day. And so this will be recorded and posted on the SRA's YouTube channel. If you missed any previous meetings, whether or not I was the host or someone else was, you can find them on the SRA YouTube. And you can always email them or just search it. You can also find links on their Facebook page, Spiritual Response Association. A couple of announcements before I do a formal introduction of our guest tonight. And that is several times people have asked, how do I get a new set of charts? Retaking a class is one excellent way to get a new updated set of charts. You can also notify the Spiritual Response Association through email, srtmail@spiritualresponse.com, or you can go to their website, spiritualresponse.org. It's .org, and you can order them. They will send you an email verifying that you've taken a class if you're not in their records, and that you can order it that way. So that's just wanted to head you off with that question. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, we have the privilege of talking to the Reverend Mary Ann Detzler, who's been an important figure in the SRA and in my personal life for a long time, and in the development of the SRA and SRT. Mary Ann's gifts go beyond anything that she's helped build in the SRT community, and we wanted to talk about some of that. Mary Ann is a former retailer. She had her own store. She's a writer. She's currently working on a book. She's an ordained minister and a captivating teacher. I've had the privilege of attending some of her classes, and they were wonderful. She's known in the USA and South America for her human potential retreats and for her spiritual growth classes, which some of those I attended. She's been inspiring students since 1958. And Mary Ann's amateur acting experience used with humor spices up her instruction, whatever she does. She has a great sense of humor. And having traveled to teach in the US and 4 South American countries, she has hundreds of followers. For over 20 years, she's assisted her late husband, Robert, with his SRT teaching and travels. she was helping organize those travels and organizing those events. So she was helping with that in Canada, Europe, the UK, and even Hong Kong. Her first experience teaching self-improvement retreats was in the 1990s, included writing 4 monthly workbooks for students, practicing principles taught such as transform your life, love and healing, and following the master, and your spiritual journey. And students claim her ability to make personal change inspiring and practical. You may notice in the Ascension, there's an article frequently called Magic. This refers to Mary Ann's good input column. That spells magic. Mary Ann's good input column. So she shares good input like, all right, now you've cleared your programs, but how do you move forward living your life? What kind of life skills perhaps do you need to fine tune? So these are some of the focus even of tonight. One of her inspirational short stories you may have read in Chicken Soup for the Women's Soul. So she's a published author also with Chicken Soup for the Women's Soul. And her youthful response and her happy, charming face, you wouldn't even know that she's 84. And she's co-authored worldwide textbooks on self-mastery and spirituality that have been currently used in the SRA and Spiritual Response Association. So big hand for Mary Ann, even though you're muted, we know what's going on. Okay. And Mary Ann's going to help us out with a grounding meditation. Yeah, you go ahead, Mary.
Say that this is just a short sort of centering prayer. I invite you to take a full deep breath and a full long exhale. Close your eyes and again, breathe in deeply, fully, completely. Exhale. Let everything fall off your shoulders and imagine as though you're in a warm, soothing shower. You're in a shower of God's love for you. Spirit's presence all around you. Warm, steaming, soothing, lovely, calming, soothing. Everything is just melting away that is not supposed to be here. You are one with Spirit, relaxed, calm. And so you become your holy self. And so it is. Amen.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Before we get into our topic more deeply tonight, I wanted to ask Mary Ann some questions. And one of those questions is if she'd like to talk a little bit about her experiences as a spiritual teacher and leader. And so my first question for you, Mary Ann, is what started you on your spiritual path? I mean, why a spiritual path?
Well, I think this was my purpose. Very early in my life, I was 3 or 4, 2 things happened that were very impactful on my life, and I've remembered them ever since. The first thing is my mother didn't allow me to go to Sunday school because she didn't exactly approve of some of the things at the very strict Protestant church that was in our farm country, but she wanted to support a church in the community. So I had to sit with my mother and father in church and watch the sun coming through the window, play with my doll, whatever. But one Sunday, the minister really got my attention. He had an angry voice. He was pounding on his pulpit and said, unless you repent, you're going to go to hell and burn forever. Holy moly. I didn't like that. So that afternoon, I waited, and when my mother was alone, nobody else was around, I came sneaking in and said, I didn't like what the minister said this morning. And Mother and I had spiritual talks. I mean, she told me I could talk to God and Jesus just like I talked to her, and they loved me, and that was father and son. And heck, I used to go playing, hey, Jesus, let's go wade with the ducks, you know. I mean, that's just the way it was. And so she said to me, you don't have to worry about what the minister said, because he wasn't talking to you, because you always try to do what's right. And if you do something that's a little off, you always ask for forgiveness, and it's given, and it's fine. You know, God and Jesus love you, you're fine. There's nothing you have to worry about. It's just those other people who won't try to do what's good. Oh, so I went off. But I didn't realize she gave me the power and permission to not accept everything authority figures tried to tell me. And this was a very young age, and wow, I didn't realize what an impression that was going to be and how important to my life. The second thing is another story from about, also I was maybe 4 years old. My brother was 8 years older than I am, and, you know, a tease and a little bit of a rascal. So he had me on the floor, living room floor, straddling me and tickling me and saying, give up to me, give up to me. And no way did I want to give up to him, you know. No, I didn't want to do that. But I was very ticklish, and this was like torture. So I said to myself, no, I'm not going to. I'm not going to give up. No. And guess what? He said, I'm going to tickle you until you pee your pants. And I didn't want to do that. So I said, no. And poof, I was up at the ceiling looking back down at my body and my brother. I looked around. I'm feeling fine, no tickles. Oh, this is great. This is wonderful. Oh, I'm at the ceiling. I was joyful. My brother soon realized I was not making any responses. He kept tickling me, and I didn't feel it. And pretty soon he got tired, got up, went out of the house, and poof, I'm back in my body again. I thought about that a lot up in my favorite tree. But nobody talked about such things, so I didn't either. But I always remembered it because it was so wonderful. There's not many people, I think, that have that kind of a beginning in life. That's why I say, I think I was meant to be a spiritual teacher. And I hope I've been fulfilling my purpose, but there it is.
So you discovered at a young age that you're more than a physical being, you're spiritual.
That's right. That's right.
Well, thank you for sharing those stories. So how do you think, well, you've kind of answered this, but how do you use those experiences to develop your teaching?
Well, I try to share experiences I've had. And I think the fact that I know that I know that I know gives me a presence in classes that some teachers have to work hard to achieve. And it's been easy for me because I've always known at some level. And so I've always loved God and Jesus, and I've studied many other religions, and I'm so broad spiritually now that I think I could go any place with anybody and worship anything and it'd be okay, because I understand that's just their view, and it's all one, and it's all okay. And spirits, you know, students sense this presence and this knowledge in me.
What do you feel was the most impactful experience in your career as a spiritual teacher that you wanted to share with us tonight? Something that made a difference?
Well, whenever I teach forgiveness, it's very impactful to those people who have not been able to forgive. And I've had 3 different instances where there have been overnight healings as a result of a 4-way forgiveness process that I have, and I've written about many times in the Ascension. See, you have to forgive God, you have to forgive yourself, you have to forgive the other person, and you have to see the other person all being forgiven as well. So you totally clean any negative connections you have with this other person in this situation. And these people had such animosity against someone that 2 of them were actually getting sick and having difficulties. They had a hard time with this process in class. And so I talked to them more about it in class and after, and asked them, please take the process home and do it again themselves, and realize your forgiving doesn't exonerate the other person from what they did. You just put them in God's hands, Spirit's hands, and they have to learn at their own time and their own pace. So they came back in the morning, these 2, and they were totally changed in that they were sunny-faced. They said they were able to sleep, and one said her breakfast didn't bother her stomach that morning. And another gal had had, as it were, an emotional healing right in my class. Now, those 3 instances made me realize how important those processes are. Forgiveness. So,
oh, go ahead.
So, you know, if you don't want to suffer from hate and anger and fear and low self-esteem, you've got to forgive. Put the other person into Spirit's hands and take your hands off of always trying to beat them up, or you're really tying them to you until you forgive. And you're not free and clear until you do forgive. And that's a really, really important concept that it's hard for some people to realize. And that's...
Okay. Well, I was going to say, as you say, low self-esteem, Spirit reminds me to forgive myself. And that's the you know, how we beat up on ourselves sometimes. So when we forgive ourselves, we get more clarity with all of our work, SRT and other things. So Mary Ann, you and I talked about what did you want to talk about tonight as a topic for the group. And one thing that impacted me in a previous conversation we had is when you said, you know, a lot of times people forget because they're used to saying SRT and not spiritual response therapy or technique, that they might forget it's spiritual. And Spirit's asking, what is your spiritual response? So tonight, so this is really what it's about, is what is our spiritual response? Is it going to be fear? What's it going to be? Love? So you picked the topic of spiritual significance of spiritual response therapy. And I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, Robert and I had taken a 6-month class on how to do pendulum release work. And our teacher, Mr. Cameron, He didn't believe in any kind of spiritual things connected with that. He also didn't believe in discarnates or past lives. And when Robert was taking the class, he took the class first before I did. He kept coming up with these ideas, these dreams, these intuitions. I mean, he could envision charts, and he was making charts already. And he presented this to his teacher, and his teacher said, well, we don't want to use that because we can't make much money because that makes everything go faster. Well, Robert just didn't believe in that. He felt that if this was coming from spirit information, and it's going to help people, it was meant to be used, and the money somehow would come. So anyway, we tried to finagle with the teacher even when I was taking the class from him, and took him to a talk by the author Edith Fiore. She just had released her book, The Unquiet Dead, about discarnates. And he finally decided, oh, I guess I'll put past lives and discarnates on my questioning, but he still was just questioning yes or no. He didn't have any charts. Everything was very cumbersome and very lengthy. Now, I'd like to say that you can clear mentally, you can clear emotionally, but to clear spiritually at depth, you need to acknowledge who you're working with. You need to realize that the spirit in you always is one with the greater creative spirit, whatever you want to call it. You can't be outside of that because we're all swimming in the ocean of spirit. We're all part of it. But unless you acknowledge it, you're not taking command of the power that's available to you. And so therefore, I'm not sure that you could clear all the things that might come to you that you need to clear unless you do acknowledge a connection with spirit. It's like we're cells in the spirit of the body of spirit, and you know, we're all operating, and this group like SRA is like a big organ within the body of spirit, and we're all working together and we help each other and so on and so forth. I mean, this is how I conceptualize the universe. We're not alone ever. We're never unconnected, never. But when you acknowledge it, you tap into your real power. And so I invite you to think about that. And think about the fact that that also increases your intuition. And it also increases your ability to release all discarnates, because some discarnates are a little harder to release than others. And sometimes I know you in your own work, you've had intuition where you thought you were clearing this thus and so because that's what the client said, and all of a sudden you're on a whole different path of type of clearing, and you feel this needs to be done because it keeps coming up for you. Well, obviously it does need to be done. And if you're really working with the awareness of spirit works in and through me and for this person and in and through this person, then there's a greater meeting of the power in them and the power in you and the power, let's face it, angels and whatever all around us and all our high self committee. Now, you are not your high self. You have a high self of other beings that helps you with SRT. So all of that extra energy is just, it's enlarged. It becomes more effective. It becomes more, acknowledging means that you have the full power to use it, is the way I'd say it. Okay, so the purpose of SRT is to remind us of source, of our clearing power, and that's what the beginning processes are about. Be sure that you're clear, that you're connected with source, and then the power behind the clearings is your high self committee working with you, and you do the clearing. And of course, inflated ego kind of edges spirit aside. And so we have to watch that we're not feeling better than everybody else because that just does not help spiritual work. Spiritual energy just will not exist with an inflated ego. So it's the we, not the me. And always having gratitude and giving thanks to spirit, and the fact that it's a partnership with spirit. That's the thing that I'd like to emphasize. And it's not hard. It's not hard. It's easy. It'll be much simpler too. So, where was I? Oh. I hopped around as usual. Spirit is always desiring to help you with your clearing work and also with your individual life. This isn't just when you're doing SRT. I mean, man, I've been saved from 2 terrible accidents because of my intuition connection with spirit, and that developed over the years. I didn't have that right away. That developed. So anyway, identify yourself as being a spiritual being, an eternal being, yes, a powerful being. And then you'll be able to do whatever clearing comes to you. Because you know, some clients come to you and they actually teach you things because of the things that they are asking or the way they treat you or whatever, and you have to learn and stretch and grow. Well, that's part of life here on Earth. It's part of our emotional process. So, okay.
So I was just going to say, as you were talking about, there's a couple of things that came up. Once, this is a while ago, I was having a difficult time. Not that I don't have any more recent, but anyway, this was a while ago, that Mary Ann just said, Kathleen, God, Spirit loves you, even if you don't feel clear. Even if you're not clear, Spirit loves you. And I thought that was, because I didn't realize that in that moment, I was into self-judgment, right? And so, so that was great, because as we go to that embracing your spiritual connection, which is what you've been talking about here a little bit, as we embrace that, it can show us that we have beliefs that we are disconnected sometimes. Not that we are, but the belief that we are. Because remember, you can't become more spiritual. You can only become more aware of your spirituality. Mary Ann taught me that too. So I guess the thing here is, before we get into questions, and I'm looking through our discussion notes, that as we increase our connection to spirit, is take that dialogue. They want to be friends. They're your friends. Take that dialogue and talk to them. Talk to them. Open it up. Don't be afraid. It's not formal. You can talk to them anytime. Ask for help anytime, as Mary Ann has mentioned.
Hey, I used to invite Jesus to go wade after the ducks when I was.
Go wade with the ducks. Why not? So
he was my friend. He was my buddy. I was 7 years younger than everybody else, and there were no playmates other than the dog who was always busy out in the field, or the cats in the barn who were chasing mice. I mean, I didn't have anybody. So why not?
Exactly. Well, we're gonna, I'm not gonna unmute everyone, but what I am going to do is ask you to unmute yourself or to put a question in the chat box for me to read to Mary Ann.
Oh, there was one other
Oh,
thing I
yeah.
wanted to mention. That is reinforcing our partnership with Spirit. I increase all of you to think about doing some mindfulness or meditation. Hey, I don't meditate every day, but I have such wonderful conversations with Spirit at night before I go to bed that I'm in constant contact all the time. I know that. I acknowledge it. I work with it. So don't beat yourself up if you take a meditation class and you don't meditate every day, but work at it little by little. Mindfulness and meditation are great. Okay, I'm done.
No, well, you're not actually, because we're going to ask you questions. So,
May I ask a question?
yes, Tori, go ahead.
Hi, Mary Ann, thank you for coming, first of all. I would like to refer to the forgiveness that you were talking about and say when it's between one person and another, or between a person and God, or between even the person himself, it's one thing. But when there is a situation that society then creates prejudice against a person because of certain circumstances, you can forgive and accept, but you still are not able to change those circumstances. So how would you go about that?
Forgiveness doesn't necessarily change circumstances, it changes you.
Right, right.
And it's you then that have to walk whatever path you choose to walk. That may be the best that you can do at that time, and another time you'll make another decision to do more or something different. No, forgiveness is all about your relationship with yourself and your relationship with Spirit.
Right, right.
So, yes, forgiveness is not easy, but it's worth the efforts. Because it's like walking around through the world with ball and chain dragging on you.
Right. So if society cannot change their prejudices, so the fact of the
matter,
matter,
society is going to learn and grow as it should, hopefully faster now, and I think it will. But your healing is not dependent on society. Your healing has to be dependent on how you think about yourself and how you love yourself. And
Right.
that will help you then to deal with what's going on in society. And I'm sorry, I don't have personal experience more than that to help you, but I've worked with some people. I've argued with people that a certain person that two of us had met was not Black because I didn't see her as Black. I just so enjoyed her personality. I never saw her as having Black skin. And the next time I saw her, I thought, oh, she does have Black skin. So what? I mean, we all have to get to that point where it's so what? And I know we're not there. I'm sorry we're not there, but we all have to work on it. All of us. Those of us with pale skin as well, because it's important. Every soul, every spirit is worth love and acceptance.
Which means that actually every time that person will be retested. Every time they meet the prejudice, they will be retested.
if you know there's certain people in particular, you avoid them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't allow them to continue to make difficulties.
Right. Correct. Yeah.
I don't know if this will help, Mary Ann, but this one situation, we were in a class, and one of the things you had mentioned that helped me get a different perspective, and Tori, I think it fits society a little bit, is forgiveness is giving something up for something better. And so as we send love and we make choices, like I see your path is going this way, I'm going to make sure my path goes this way.
Right.
You know, we can walk
Yes.
side by side with a space in between, you know. But it's about giving something up, and what that is the anger and what other energies are, the judgment. It basically goes down to judgment and fear, and giving that up for more inner peace. And that, yeah, there's lots of different ways to arrive at that, but I found that helpful when we were talking about it in the class.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other comments from Mary Ann or questions? Oh, I'm sorry.
How can I get a greater understanding with my high self? Somebody asked.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I'm a few notes behind now. How can we make SRT more widely accepted, especially by others who subscribe more to the spiritual dogma of churches?
The thing is, be sure that you don't have any discrimination between churches and beliefs and so on. And learn to love and accept everybody, and you will get other clients that will be able to accept you as well. Yeah, we can't make certain people that we may want to believe differently. We have to give everybody the free will we have, which is they learn and grow at their own pace and time. But we don't have to stand there and let them beat on us or yell at us or call us bad names while they're thinking they're growing when they're not.
Right. And so as Alejandra wrote in, that's why it's so important to live the spiritual values, so that it can help us when we encounter people who are not on the same page. They may be learning and growing, but it's not at the same place we are. And that's not judgment, it's just awareness. So Adele also has a question: how can I get my maximum connection with my high self? That's a translation there.
Connection with high self.
Yeah, maximum connection with your high self. That relationship I think you were talking about.
Well, the relationship is, are you holding anything against yourself? Are you holding anything against the creator? Are you holding anything against other people in general? You see, this is a long work, and I'm still working on it. Every once in a while, somebody cuts me off in the road or whatever, and I'm, and I think, oh, okay, Mary Ann, God bless them, and hope they don't get into an accident or somebody else in an accident. But this is an emotional world, and I have to tell you, every day brings something that we need to forgive or to up our idea about. And we're always working with spirit. And so we're always forgiving ourselves and forgiving others. It's just realizing this is a messy world. And I usually wouldn't say messy world, but this is 2020, and it has been a messy year. So I'm saying messy.
So, if I can just add a comment, I mean, it's great. As you're saying, it's about the relationship building. So as we think about friends and those people we love, and we have a desire to build that relationship, keep that same motivation with your high self, right? And I like to tell them, okay, show me the way to build this relationship, or how to increase my joy and happiness. my clarity. And I promise I won't say no. I promise I'll say yes instead of, "Hey, self, are you nuts?" No, instead I'm going to say, yeah, okay, let's go there. Let's follow it. And I guess to me, that's helped me kind of build that relationship. I promise not to say, "Are you crazy, myself?" No. So here I am.
Yes, sometimes the experiences come up that you think, oh my gosh, why did I say I'm ready to learn and grow more? Because, oh, this is a tough one.
Yeah.
But it might be tough
Yeah.
because you've never done it before.
That's right.
But you've got the strength inside you to do it, or it wouldn't have come up for you. You're ready to face it now, and you can walk through it.
Yeah.
Remember, you don't walk alone.
Yeah. So Andrea Lynn says, what advice would you give to a new SRT practitioner that's not oops, sorry, someone just added in it. Okay, what advice would you give to a new SRT practitioner that is not commonly mentioned or typical?
I'm afraid I don't quite understand.
So if someone's starting, this is how I interpret it.
Okay, you're starting out.
What advice would you give them that may not be your typical advice that someone else might have given them?
Be your own best client. Be your own best clearing person. And you won't have any trouble with any clients that'll come to you. If you fear certain people, be careful. They might be drawn to you. If you have difficulty with certain personalities, you're going to have to work through that sometime or other. I'm not saying, meaning this to say you, but keep working on your relationship with Spirit. Keep working on your practice of SRT, not just for yourself, but for your family, for your friends, whatever. And it will all start to come. And you'll begin to feel firmer with your answers. You'll be able to feel quicker responses. And for heaven's sakes, get some kind of working, speaking relationship with Spirit. And you won't have any problems because you can always call on the big guns. And Spirit is the big gun whenever you need it. And I have to tell you, Robert and I, before we knew SRT, had a big issue that we needed to take care of, and we didn't know how to do it. And but we felt we were called to answer this person's need. We did, and we worked and worked and worked with the person, with the wife, with whatever, and we were able to do work that we had not been trained to do as ministers. And you too will have what you need if you stay connected with Spirit and ask for Spirit's help, be able to clear whatever you need to clear.
Thank you.
Okay.
A couple of more questions here in the chat box. Something that's related to Tori's question. Maybe cutting the world energy would help, or researching for some programs it would help. That's true if we bring a particular situation to ourselves. And society can behave in certain ways, but it doesn't mean that it has to get to us. I actually clear on cities and groups, so that's something you could think about. But it does also, this woman who's writing is sharing that she's not white and she's LGBT, but somehow she's been lucky enough, or they have been lucky enough, that discrimination doesn't usually get to them. And I think that's beautiful, because you are, as Mary Ann mentioned, all of us, everyone wants love and acceptance. Everyone. It's love and acceptance. So I'm going to keep that. Thank you for sharing this, Holding. I appreciate that.
Right. Thank you.
Did you have anything to comment to that, Mary Ann, before I read the next one?
What'd you say?
I said, did you want to add anything before I read the next question?
No, I'm looking at the time.
Yeah, I know, but we're okay. Okay, in all of your years practicing SRT, what was your greatest challenge or lesson? We kind of talked about your greatest experience, but they want to know what your greatest challenge was. I think you might have just talked about it, but is there anything else you wanted to add? Or were there any periods in time where you lost faith or experienced blocks?
My greatest experiences were early on. Oh, that's not an SRT. That was when I was learning to meditate.
Yeah, this isn't all your years doing SRT. What was your greatest challenge or lesson, and were there any periods where you lost faith with that? I know Robert threw SRT in the garbage quite a few times, but what about your story?
My greatest difficulty was the fact that Robert and I didn't always agree on what the answer was. You see, we each had different kinds of intuition and different kinds of high self groups helping us. And I would do, when he was gone, I would do clearing work on the phone and by writing or whatever. And then sometimes he'd say, I don't agree with this. How come you said this and this and this? I says, that's what came up for me. But I don't get that. And we had a real difficulty in discussing that and really realizing that when two people come together, different things may come up, or they may come to a particular consultant or teacher for clearing, and it's going to clear something that the two of them share, or that comes up because of their energy combination. Well, have they gone to somebody else, something different, or it may have shown up in a different way. It would be clearing some of the same things, but it would come up or show up differently. And so that was the hardest thing for Robert and I to realize, that if I clear somebody, it's not going to look like the same written clearing as when he cleared. And Spirit said they were cleared. And that was really hard for Robert to accept. I'm more open and, oh, okay. So you're tuning into a different facet. You're looking through a different lens. Okay, yeah, I get it. But Robert was more cut and dried, and that was difficult for him.
Thank you, Mary Ann. I think that's well said. There's a couple of more questions. I just want the audience to know we are running out of time, so I'm only going to read like the next few down here. So Mary Ann, this is from Pamela, and she is asking that despite, when we work on someone, maybe even ourselves, but I think she's talking about someone else with clear programs, maybe it comes up, the soul wants to reestablish things. We can clear that. By the way, Pamela, there are programs called reestablish or layers. But let's say we clear everything, get that guarantee, but that person wants to return to the old patterns. What would you recommend in those cases when someone wants to return to old patterns?
This sounds like habit. There's one thing, you clear programs, but that doesn't necessarily mean it saves the person from having to do anything. No, it doesn't. Whatever habits we have established, emotional, mental, or even spiritual, those are ours to clear because we're free will beings. And it's up to us to make a decision to change our own life. And that's the one thing that I think is difficult in SRT. Clients love to come and think they're all soul washed and spirit washed and physically and emotionally washed and clean and whatever, and they can walk out free and shiny bright and not have another problem. Life doesn't work like that. So it's important for you as a consultant to let them know that there's things they need to do. They need to learn and grow. This is an emotional world, and they're not going to get any place unless they do some of the emotional work for themselves.
Yeah, and also sometimes I ask if there's a reason why they're getting stuck in patterns. A lot of times they'll take me to a chart where it's just information. They have blocks to changing their life, perhaps. So yeah, it is emotional world. There's stuff to work on. Thank you. So the other question is, this is from, excuse me, sorry here. Okay, Blanca, what can I do to improve the way I interpret the information from my high self has given me? When doing research, sometimes I can get a story, I make up the story, but I get nervous about sharing it with the client. I'm afraid of causing them more confusion. Maybe I have to clear that fear. Any suggestions other than clearing her fear?
About clearing fear?
No, I just meant sharing the information, sharing the
Well,
information and
you know,
not being afraid to.
the native Indians here in North America, and I think in South America too, they used to tell stories, and the stories all had a meaning and they had a purpose. And I don't think there's anything wrong with putting your answer into a story. It may be more acceptable to the other person. I would try it. I really would.
And you can always check high self, what percent are you interpreting it correctly? Yeah,
Right.
I like
And
to.
am I meant to tell this story to this person? And yeah.
You know, Mary Ann, one day I wanted to share something with someone and you said, did you check the value to share it with them? I'm like, oh, I never thought about it. It came up 0% to share it with them. And in the conversation I had with them later that week, I totally got why it was not a good idea to share. So thank you for saving me on that one. Okay. So, Mary Ann didn't want to spend too much about SRT practices. So the question about self-punishment programs that continue showing up after a while, oh gosh, guys, when this moves, I was reading and now it's gone. Okay, regarding self-punishment programs that continue showing up after a while, can you share what has worked for you? I just want to share that ask why. Why do they keep coming up? Go to chart 1, ask spirit, are they in layers? Are they in mazes or infinities? You need to keep asking why. Why are they coming up? And that would help. And then Mary Ann, anything you want to share?
And then the big anecdote is working on self-love.
That's true. Yeah. Excellent. Self-love. So any blocks to that? And Andrea just thanks you for your insights. Joffre is thanking you for your insights. We're not going to cover chart 32 tonight. Just wanted to let you know that. But we can, I personally do meetings about charts, so we can maybe do that, or I can talk to some other teacher about covering that. And do you always have to tell a client every aspect that shows up? I don't. Spirit, as we just mentioned, Spirit might say not to share it with them. Any comment with that, Mary Ann?
I have no problem with that because sometimes they're not ready to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, the names on chart 5 are ugly names, and I don't share those kinds of names.
No, people, it all goes back to understanding, doesn't it? Yeah. Mariana, just a lot of people saying thank you. It's been a privilege to talk to you tonight. It's been wonderful. and thanking you. And I'm just double checking. I'm just going to say we've run out of time, and Mary Ann's going to give us a beautiful closing meditation. And I want to thank all of you for coming, and I'm going to turn it back over to Mary Ann again for that meditation.
Okay, so I invite you to take time to put anything aside, relax, take a deep breath. This is a process that before you close your eyes, we're going to send love in a triangle shape. So there's 3 different points. Spirit's going to be at one point, you are going to be at another point, and somebody else, whoever you choose, will be at the 3rd point. Okay? So, take a deep breath, relax. Take a deep, deep, full breath. Exhale fully, completely. Perhaps breathe in to the count of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hold 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Relax. I counted because it's important to breathe in fully and completely from the belly as well as the chest, and also to release completely from the chest and the belly. But that's not as important as just a deeper breathing cycle. So your intention is to relax, relax, both body, emotions, and thought. Think of someone you already love. See that person as it were across from you in that triangle. And you send this person your heart's energy as a blessing. You can whisper or affirm aloud, I love you. I'm sending you love. Hopefully you begin to feel your heart begin to warm with this outgoing gift of love. Continue to send this love to this person for a moment. Now open your heart and maybe even your hands as well to receive that person's love sent to you freely, willingly. Imagine this person sees you with the eyes of love and sends you warm, hug-like energies. I accept your love. Whisper, I accept your love. And then feel and say to them, you love spirit. You love spirit. And see as it were a pink glow of energy growing around them, blessing them. Spirit is at the other point of the triangle. And so the energy of love is expanding. Next, envision love energy coming from spirit to them. You are surrounded with sunny, warm energies. Give thanks for blessings. Affirm Spirit's love. And know they are blessed. We affirm Spirit loves you. Has it another dimension of this energy going around the triangle to everybody and from everybody of these three? I send my love to Spirit. So I ask you to send your love to Spirit. You are always connected. Or you simply say, I love Spirit. Picture or feel warm, loving energies beaming from your chest out to Spirit. Now recognize there are supportive vibrations coming back your way from Spirit. Spirit's energy of love coming to you. Spirit loves me now. Take a moment to experience that. Spirit has always loved me. That love is like the sun gently warming you. Open your heart and mind to receive. And the more you receive love, the more you're able to give and to send love to the person opposite you, to Spirit, and to receive love. The circle of love goes both directions. Receive and accept and allow your heart and soul to expand with all this love received and all this love given. Because as we give love, more love grows in our heart. We give thanks for this spiritual connection, not only with Spirit, but with others. And so it is. We are blessed. Take a deep breath and come back slowly, giving thanks and accepting the blessing you may have received. For I have sent my blessing to you as well. Spirit in you and through you is loving others, loving you, and is a blessing to the world. And so it is. Amen. Coming back now, slowly, easily, surely. And all is well.
Thank you, Mary Ann. I hope from the comments that we've received, everyone's been very pleased with your presentation tonight and the fact that you made the time out of your very busy schedule to meet with us and to share some concepts and ideas. And I know that your classes and your articles have made an impact in my life, and I hope that others can benefit from hearing from you as well. So thank you, everyone. We are over time, but that was a wonderful, wonderful meditation. And the recording will be sent to the SRA, and then they're going to be doing some things with it before it goes live on their YouTube. But it will be presented on their Facebook page and maybe a constant contact email going out. Just want to let you know that if any of you teachers who want to present a CEC class, please contact the SRA about that. Let them know what topic you'd like to present. There are forms to fill out, but they are looking for teachers and or consultants, depending on the topic, to present CEC classes. And thank you, everyone. Let me just stop the recording here.